and welcome to the Friday Live Lunch and Learn. The Friday Live Lunch and Learn is finally back. I took all of July off from doing these. I was busy with some vacation time, busy with doing some other engagements for work, and moving office space. As you may be able to tell, I have a brand new office. So welcome to the new digs. Oh, you can see Marlo's over there on the couch. So it's mostly finished, mostly. There's still a few more things that I want to do with this space. Mostly put something on the walls. All of my walls are pretty much blank canvases for now. And over the couch, I have this huge white wall, and I'm not entirely sure what to do with that yet. If you have any suggestions, I would love to hear them. But yeah, I'm not sure entirely what to do yet with that space, but I'm excited. This new space has been a work in progress for most of August. I've been sort of piecemeal bringing things in, doing some shopping, just kind of picking away at it. But I'm pretty impressed with how things worked out. A brand new desk. I have a window like right behind where you are that I can like see out onto the street. It's beautiful. It's inspiring. I've got trees. But I think most of all, what I'm most excited about is this chair. I have this really great chair from IKEA. I went shopping with my sister for new office furniture, and she talked me into spending more than I had budgeted for, just a little bit, to really upgrade my chair, because her logic, which makes total sense, was that I spend pretty much all day at my desk in the chair, so the chair should be nice and comfortable. And Mandy, as normal, you're completely right. I'm loving it. I'm loving this chair. It makes me excited to like sit down and go to work. So that's a good thing, right? And yes, so it is August. It is, I was going to say middle of August, but we're pretty much right at the end of August now. So you're probably seeing lots of back to school stuff, right? You're seeing back to school promotions everywhere. School supply shopping is all happening right now. Teachers are getting their classrooms ready to go back to school. And in that same theme of back to school, I'm not going back to school, but I am starting a new sort of consulting gig for students. So I'm working with an agency that is helping students get jobs out of school. And really what I'm learning with this new job is that students get really confused about how to market themselves when they feel like they're lacking experience, and they feel like their education isn't necessarily experience. And that is not true at all. Your education is experience, and there is a way to position that on your resume to make your resume stronger, to show that you have experience, right? Because we hear this adage all the time, right? You can't get a job because you don't have an experience, but you can't get experience if you don't get a job. So somebody needs to hire me without experience. That's not necessarily true. If you have gone to post-secondary education of any kind, that is experience that you can use to market yourself on your resume. It's just about how you do it. So when people are writing their resumes, I feel a lot of times people get all hemmed in by the sections, right? So even if you read, some of my blog posts, or you watch some of my videos where I talk about how to structure your resume, and we talk about the headline and the summary and the key skills, and then we talk about creating like an education section where you would list your degrees or courses or certifications, and then you would have an experience section where you would dive into, your work history and the accomplishments that you accumulated throughout your work history. And then, of course, I do a whole lot of talking and blogging about how to create those accomplishments. So I thought today maybe I would talk a little bit more about your education, because even if you are, several years into your career, you may still be able to go back and sort of leverage this to strengthen your skills section, strengthen your education section, or even just still strengthen your professional experience section by adding these things in as experience, even if they're a little bit older in your resume, because it can make a huge difference, right? If you've only had one or two jobs, but you have robust education experience, you can sort of beef up that experience, that work experience section of your resume by including some of the stuff that may have happened while you were in school. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about are class projects. Class projects are like work experience. You are often, it seems now, whenever I work with students, they often have several large group projects that they've had to do, where the professor will give them some sort of real life or simulated theoretical problem that they need to go off and solve. This happens a lot in highly technical sort of degrees, such as engineering or computer science or supply chain management, or even like data analysis. You're given a problem that a company may really have, or a theoretical problem that a company may have, or a world problem. I've seen this in urban planning even. They'll say, here's a city, they don't have a transportation system, fix it, what would you do? So, and then you go off and you do all kinds of research, and you consult with other engineers, or you work with other professionals, or you collaborate as a group. You come up with solutions, you test those solutions, you create reports, you create documentation, you deliver a presentation, you make your case about why your solution is the right one. You present that, and then you're graded on it. All of that work that simulates real life is experience. So that project could actually be listed in your work experience section, similarly as you would any other work experience. So you would put the project name sort of as a company name. You would describe your role, like as a position title. So were you the group leader? Were you the head researcher? Were you the primary presenter? What was your key role on that project, whether it was individually or as in a group? You put the date that this project was completed, and then you would list out everything that you did in that project, everything that you can still word that as an accomplishment, right? You can say that you presented this to 50 other students and 3 professors. You could say that you hit project milestones. So some of these projects that students do that I work with, some of these projects take months, and they have to hit key milestones, right? Like part 1 needs to be completed by this date, part 2 needs to be completed by this date, or they need to check back with the group and present what they've done on their own to the group by a certain date. That shows project management skills. You're able to hit those dates. You're able to hit deadlines. That's skill. That's an accomplishment, hitting those deadlines, delivering what you're supposed to. That's an accomplishment. So you want to word it as such. You also want to show, what was the problem you were presented with? How did you come up with the solution? What was that solution? And what is the theoretical result of that, I guess? So if it's like a real world business or theoretical business problem that you go and you solve, you probably, as part of that project, need to be able to say, not only will it solve this problem, but this will be the ultimate impact. If this was implemented, this is what would happen. So you want to include that as well. It shows all kinds of great skills for an employer. Not only does it show that you can take a task and run with it and do the research and get it done in time, it shows that you can work with other people, it shows that you can find the resources to complete the project and get everything in on time. So all of this is really great. So those big core projects that you're doing in school are experience and are accomplishments that you should showcase on your resume as experience. You don't need to, dumb them down or minimize them and make them a one-liner in the education section, like under the school, do a one-line like, oh, completed a capstone engineering project. Like, you don't need to, you can elaborate on that and make that a critical key piece of your experience, okay? So that's the first one. That's a big one that I find people miss all the time. Big projects are experience, okay? Another one that I find gets underplayed all the time, and I don't know why, but your internships. And people will say, oh, but it only lasted a few weeks, or oh, I was only there a month. So that's work experience. That's what these internships are designed to do. They're designed to give you real world work experience. So make sure it's on your resume as real world work experience. Of course, indicate that you are an intern. And actually, my logic for this is not just for you to put it there so people know, oh, well, it was just an internship. I would suggest including, like, in brackets that you're an intern, just so people understand why the timeline is so short. So if your internship was only a week or two or only a month or two, when someone's scrolling through the dates, they'll see that was a short period of time, and when they look over, they're like, oh, that was an internship. That makes sense. That's why it's so short. That's why, not because it's something that you should diminish. Internships are extraordinary opportunities for you to have something to put on your resume for professional experience. And then the same goes for any other work history that you would have under your internship. You want to describe the scope of your role. What were you responsible for? What teams were you working with? Who were you reporting to? This is a big one with internships because unlike some entry-level roles, with an internship, often you will report to someone more senior than you necessarily would if you were an employee. So I would take advantage of that. So if you are interning with, say, a smaller company, and you're reporting to the CEO or the president or the director of sales, make sure you put that on your resume. Like, reported to the director of sales and was tasked with whatever. Often with internships as well, and this is great, that you often have opportunities that you wouldn't necessarily have as like an entry-level employee. Sometimes you get to contribute on bigger projects. You might have a small contribution, but you're still contributing to bigger projects than you may otherwise get to. So make sure you list any projects that you contributed to. Sometimes you'll get exposed to different departments in an internship. That's great experience to list on your resume. Or you will get to sit in on high-level meetings that you might not be able to because you're reporting to someone sort of higher up the food chain at that company than you necessarily would if you were an employee. So that's important as well. So who you reported to, the teams that you worked with, the departments that you were exposed to, any special projects you were put on to help with, include all of that stuff in your resume. Internships are real-world work experiences, and they should be treated as such on your resume. Another one that's underplayed way too much when I see this, extracurricular activities at school. So if you are on any committees, if you run any clubs, if you headed Frosh Week activities, if you maybe you founded a new math club or a robotics club, or you went to competitions. A lot of these engineering and computer science and robotics, math, a lot of the science programs have these clubs where you join them and you go and you do these competitions. That's great experience to include. Make sure that stuff hits your resume. Now, if you are in some sort of leadership or organizer role with any of these clubs or organizations, that I would list as work experience. If you're responsible for generating new members, if you're responsible to going out and delivering presentations, if you're responsible for the club finances or travel planning or anything like that you're like in charge of or you're responsible for, that makes the organization or that club run, that is work experience. So I would definitely list that as such on a student resume for sure. Those extracurricular leadership roles are work experience. Now, if you're just a member of a club and you're not really directing operations in any way, but you're contributing to the club, you're a participant, you're competing, that's something maybe I would put in a separate section on your resume. I would still absolutely include it, but maybe not quite as work experience unless you're in a more leadership director sort of position with the organization. And you could have an extra section that's like additional credentials or extracurricular or community involvement, depending on what the club is. If it's a more philanthropic club or organization, then that might fall under community involvement a little bit more nicely. But you could create another section, or you can nest it under your time at that school. Okay, I hope that made sense. But yeah, so I'm just saying that if it's a leadership role that you have with these organizations, it's work experience. If not, if it's more of a participatory membership type deal, then maybe nest it in your education section or create a whole other section for it. All right? Another thing I like to do with students, especially if you're feeling like there's limited work history, limited skills that you have, is to list your notable courses in your education section. So in your education section, you would list like the school and the degree that you got, your date of graduation, if you're a fairly new graduate, your date of graduation. And then underneath that, I like listing notable courses because it gives people a better idea of what you got out of your education and what you're bringing to the table. Because with any degree, as you know, as a student, you could take any number of courses and still end up with the same degree as somebody else, but have very few overlapping courses. And it helps with the keyword word searching, depending on the jobs that you're applying for. It can really help boost your keywords just by having listed those notable courses. So when you're thinking of notable courses, it might not necessarily be your favorite courses. You want to think about, okay, what courses most closely align with the jobs I'm applying for? You want to list those. What courses did I do really well in and feel like I have a very firm grasp of those concepts that I could actually apply those in a work setting? You want to list those courses as well. So just keep in mind when you're listing notable courses, and I'm saying notable courses for a reason, don't list every single course you've taken over the last 4 or 5 years at school. You want to bring that down a bit. I'm not sure if I've ever counted, but I would say I wouldn't go more than 10 for sure. I would max out there. So you want to narrow down that list. And if you took, calculus 1, 2, and 3, if that's how it's listed, you don't need to list 1, 2, and 3. You could just say calculus, like advanced, or just calculus 3 because the other 2 would have been prerequisites, right? So narrow down that list as much as you can. But just keep it as relevant as possible to the jobs that you are applying for. And I think that's it. Yes. So that's everything that can come up in your post-secondary education that you can use to strengthen your resume and stand out against all of those other new graduates who are applying for the same job you are. So if you're feeling like your resume is a little light and there's not a whole lot of content there, really think back to everything you did in school that could be listed as experience. So think back to those major projects, those major research assignments. Think about any of those internships. Think about extracurricular activities, any committees or clubs that you were a participant in or a leader in. And yes, this includes fraternities. So if you are a member of a fraternity and you are the social media director, or you're in charge of recruitment, or you're in charge of the philanthropic endeavors that they do, list that on your resume. And then, of course, if you have a part-time job, that's work experience too. Don't overlook that. Make sure that makes it onto your resume as well. I think that's it. That is it. Yes. So, I guess that's, sorry, I'm just double checking. Yes, I hit all the major points that I wanted to. All right, it's Friday. Things are a little slow going right now. So it's Friday. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great weekend. And if you are a student, or you know a student who is struggling with finding their first job out of school, or struggling with knowing how to position their education as work experience on their resume, and you have any questions left over from this video, or any questions really about any sort of job topic, please let me know. Leave me a comment. I will get back to you, or you can email me at Tammy, Tammy, at kickglasscareers.com, and I will respond and help you out. All right, thank you, Glass Kickers. I will see you next week, next Friday, August 30th, I think, 30, or September, I think we're into next week. All right, I will see you next week. Bye.